morning and welcome to Daf Yomi Maseches Rosh Hashana, Daf Chaf Beis, Daf 22. Again, I'm joining my father today. It's a bright and early Sunday morning. I'm actually excited because I get to experience this week the NFL at 1 o'clock kickoff.
Well, you don't really want to watch the Jets or the Giants with their records.
You're right, especially the Jets. They lost their starting quarterback. It's pretty sad what happened to the Jets this year. I go oftentimes. I came here the first night I came into the basement. I went down to my old room. I cried the whole night. I did a tikkun chatzot, but not for the Beis Hamikdash, for the Jets. I'm telling you, I did a tikkun chatzot. I've never cried like that before. I bawled. I was bawling all over the floor. They had to bring in a mop in the morning to clean it up. Right, Dad? You were the one who cleaned it. You cleaned up the mop?
No, I didn't
My
clean
mother
anything
cleaned it.
up. But I wouldn't shed any tears on the Jets. You know, if the front line can't protect their own quarterback, then
What do you think about this guy Zach Wilson, Dad, the new quarterback for the Jets?
He's young. He's immature. He has to learn.
How old does he look?
He needs protection.
How old does that guy look?
He looks young.
He looks like he's like 15 years old, right?
He looks young. And all those guys coming after him must look like lions.
Anyway, my father picked up bagels this morning for breakfast from the local bagel store. Right, Dad?
Yeah, were they good?
They're pretty good bagels, yeah. You know, they don't have bagels so much in Israel. They even opened the store near where I live in Telstone, and they closed down. There wasn't enough customers. People weren't buying the bagels.
Well, either it's an acquired taste, or the water is somehow a little different in Israel, or maybe the bagel doesn't taste exactly like a New York bagel.
You don't think it's a cultural thing that in Israel they have falafels, America they have the bagels?
Yeah, well, it is. It is a
bagel is a North American cuisine, right?
But you have Sam's bagel.
They do have Sam's bagels, right?
Yeah, you like
for the Americans. You go in that store, only people who speak English. You don't see any Hebrew speakers over there. Except the Ger Hasidim. I saw a lot of Ger Hasidim over there. They like it. They like the bagels over there.
Well, it's because they're holy.
You know what? Why do the Ger Hasidim like it?
Because they're holy.
Only the Ger Hasidim are holy?
No, the bagels are holy.
Yeah. So
it's a pun.
What does it do with Ger Hasidim?
Because they're holy. They're holy only and they're eating a holy bagel.
What's your favorite sect of Hasidus?
In fact, there used to be a holy bagel, not just Sam's.
They have one. Actually, the holy bagel, they renamed it Benny's Bagel.
Did they?
Yeah. It's near Mafia Nechama.
That's the proof you're holy.
It's near Mafia Nechama. There was a holy bagel, and they renamed it Benny's. And I'm right next to Nechama with my wife. Her name is Nechama, so it's amazing, right? Benny and Nechama.
Well, that's just more. That's just more proof that this is a holy shear.
It's a very holy shear. We'll give you free bagels and cream cheese. If you come to America, you have to fly from Israel to America. To have a stopover in Zurich, to pick up some money from me,
right?
And pay me handsomely. They'll give you a bagel.
Who needs to give out Gemaras? Give out bagels.
There you go. All right, exactly. Come on, people learning Daf Yomi, they want a Gemara.
No, a bagel.
They want a bagel, exactly. They enjoy their bagel, whatever, something Torah, whatever. The Iker is the bagel, right there.
Yeah, bagel and learn.
Bagel and learn. Bagel comes first, not learn and bagel. Bagel and learn. This is the way to do it.
Well, if you're satiated and you're full, then you're going to have concentration.
And because we're learning Maseches Tainus, that's the next Masechta about fasting.
Yeah.
So you get a bagel. You can't eat it for a whole month, though. You have to keep it in your freezer.
Not while you're learning
exactly. So we have to keep it in your freezer for a whole month. And then after we finish Maseches Tainus, at the Siyum, you can eat the bagel. Sounds like it's a good plan, right?
That's a very good idea.
Because it internalizes Maseches Tainus. It makes you feel it, the pangs of hunger. Not only can't you eat the bagel, you can't eat anything the whole Maseches Tainus. You have to fast for 30 days straight.
That's going to be hard.
Don't worry, you have to feel Maseches Tainus, like Rosh Hashana. You have to feel Maseches Rosh Hashana.
So you just fast during the day and you eat at night.
You can have a drink, no eating at night.
Time to move on.
All right, time to move on. Okay, Father says time to move on. Keep it up, aim. Listen to your father. We're going to start at the topic of Bezim and Aleph. Tanya, Amar, the Gemara says, Ma'aser sha'avru yoser ma'arba mizug v'ikvan Rabbi Akiva. The Mishnah says that Rabbi Akiva, he held up 40 witnesses because there was a case where it was very clear that it was going to be, the moon was going to be Makudash because they saw the moon very clearly in the sky. So Rabbi Akiva felt that it's better not for them to go. So Gamliel told him that you're machshir la'asalavo. No one's going to come in the future because they're going to think you stop them. Tanya, Amar Yehuda, Chas v'shalom Rabbi Akiva ikvan. His Chas v'shalom to say it was Rabbi Akiva who held him back. El Shizfar Rosha shal Gader ikvan. It was a different place, Gader. Shizfar was the mayor. He was the mayor of Gader, and he held him back. V'shalach Gamliel v'hiridu migdulaso. Gamliel heard about this. He took him down from mayor. Gamliel banished him from being mayor. His hopes of becoming part of the Knesset were terminated, and he wasn't able to become part of the Knesset. And Shizfar, there's a whole book written about Shizfar, the potential. He could have been prime minister of Israel, but they took him away.
They actually pronounce it in articles Shizefer. Interesting.
Did they say anything about being mayor in the Knesset?
No.
So this is my own take.
Okay.
This is my share. Mishnah says, Av Ubno is relevant to Av Ubno, Dad. Me, you, and your son. And my father, Sharoas HaChodesh. Let's say we would see the moon together. Yelchu, they should both go to Beis Din, to Yerushalayim, to report the new moon. Loshim and Sarfin Zaimzad. It's not that they can be together two witnesses. Elohim should be apostle. Echamid Sarif Hashem. If one person was apostle, meaning his edus was contradicted by facts, or we'll see how edus could be contradicted, so the other one could join together with another aid, and they can mekadesh the chodesh together. He learns that even though normally edus, krovim, and av and son are krovim, they have a familiar relationship, they're close together, they can't be a group of edim together. For Kiddush HaChodesh, they're allowed to be. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh b'Tuvia Rof. There was an incident with Tuvia the doctor. Sharas HaChodesh Yerushalayim. He saw the new moon Yerushalayim. Who b'no v'avd of him, his son, and his Eved Meshuchrar, his freed slave. Eved kind of was freed. The Kiblu HaKohanim Osov as b'no. The Kohanim, when they were in intake, right, the triage, they were taking him in. They were makabel him and his son. Paso as avd. They were both of the aid because of the Eved, because an Eved is like an Isha. Eved like an Isha, she's puzzle for aid. Shabol if they based in when they came in front of the actual basin. Kiblu also as Avdo, they were Makabel the father, and the Eved apostle as Beno. They're apostle of man because they held that Avu Beno is like the Tanakama, not like Reb Shimon is apostle for Eidos, but the Eved is not connected to the father. So the Eved they held, and Eved, since he's Eved Meshukrar, he would be kosher for Eidos because he's not like an Isha regarding this. The Gemara says, Amar Reb Levi, my taima. Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon allows Krovim, an Av and a Ben, to be a group of witnesses. What's his reasoning? He says, the Chodesh, this month is for you, is Nisan. Eda zu tehek sheira bachem. Why does it lachem for you? To tell you that this Edas, even though normal Edas for money or for getting Kedushin or for Misa, Malkus, is not kosher, except with people that are not krovim. Bachem, you, Moshe and Aaron, were brothers. It's kosher. Rabbanon. Rabbanon say that Av B'no is possible. Krovim is possible. Right as a chodesh. What do you do that's possible? Edazu to him is surah lachem. It should be given over to you, meaning people like you. Since Moshe and Aaron were very learned people, and they would have probably been on Sanhedrin. So therefore, people like you should adjudicate this case, and people are qualified, not krovim. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh b'Tuvia Rof. Amar Rav Chana Barava. Hilchazak, Reb Shimon, Lachal, Reb Shimon. Two Edom that are Krovim could testify for Kiddush HaChodesh. Amalei Rav Huna, Rav Chana Barava, or Reb Yossi, Ma'aseh, Adamar, Hilchazak, Reb Shimon. What about Reb Yossi and his Ma'aseh? He brought a whole Ma'aseh with Tuvia Rofe. And at the end, they were apostled, the father and the son, because they were Krovim. So actually, the Lachal, Reb Shimon. Reb Yossi argues on Reb Shimon. It could be the Lachal, Reb Shimon, or Reb Yossi. But he had a Ma'aseh, the Ma'aseh Rav. We normally have, there's an incident that takes precedence. But he said there were many times Amir Kamei the Rabbi. I said this in front of Rav that Allah follows Rabbi Shimon. He didn't protest. He didn't say anything wrong. So it seems Rav agrees with that. He said, how did you teach it? Meaning, who did you attribute each position to? He said the opposite. I said Rabbi Shimon was the one who doesn't allow it, and Yossi allows it. That's why he didn't say anything to you. Amar Tevi Brei Demar Tevi Amar Marokva Amar Shmuel Hilchazak Reb Shimon Lachaval Reb Shimon. That seemingly, it seems to be from our Gemara, that Allah calls Reb Shimon that Krovim are kosher for Eidos HaChodesh, like Reb Shimon. Should be noted, the article points out that the halacha we passed in the Krovim are actually possible for Eidos HaChodesh.
Right, which would make sense in a sense, because I'm going to ask a question, which is, It's not just, you would think, okay, so it's just Adim that are talking about the Chodesh, so what's the big deal? But it's a tremendous deal, because if it turns out that you got the day of Yom Kippur wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and we have the issue we were talking about the other day with eating, on the wrong day, and actually eating on Yom Kippur because you got it wrong.
Right.
In fact, it was so important, the calendar, right? I think that the Romans instituted three prohibitions against the Jews, right? Mila and Torah, teaching Torah, and calculating the new month. Because if there was no calculation, the entire Jewish calendar would be, you know, awry. So it's interesting that I mean, I guess that's why we paskin like that, because it's such an essential part of Yiddishkeit. It affects so many different things.
Because we need it because of Shas Atchak, passing like Shimon. It's interesting you say that because there's a Gemara that says Kedai hu Reb Shimon l'smoch alav b'shas Atchak. The
Mm.
Gemara says even though normally we wouldn't pass like Reb Shimon, but if it's Shas Atchak, it's an emergency, extenuating circumstances, we pass like Reb Shimon, even though normally the halacha should not be like Reb Shimon. Either he goes against a majority, or he goes against a Meiser, he goes against a Tana who's normally stronger.
Right?
Shas Atchak, we do rely on Reb Shimon. But the Gemara doesn't say halacha is like Reb Shimon Shas Atchak. But
No, I'm saying that I think
yeah,
that the Tanakama is that's why the position makes sense, that it has to be two kosher edim, that there can't be. What's the reasons you don't want to have a relative?
oh, you're
Because
saying they
one can
shouldn't be.
influence the other.
You're saying they shouldn't be kosher.
They should not be kosher, because you have to. You want to err on the side of caution, because two people that are related
Mm-hmm.
could have their own agenda
Mm-hmm.
for why they did something. That's why you don't. What's the reason you don't want to have relatives? Because a father and a son or brothers, that they'll conspire together because they're close.
Oh, that's the reason. I mean,
I'm saying potentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason you don't want. Why would you not accept two witnesses that are relatives to put someone to death? Because if they both had a grudge, right? So even though, except sometimes those feelings are so strong that people just can't overcome them. So if you have people that are not related at all.
The problem here, though, is the Gemara says halacha is like Reb Shimon, right? And seemingly from our Mishnah, Reb Shimon allows an Av and a Ben to testify. So with the poskin, the article brings all the poskin paskin. Not like that. It's how you resolve that. That's really the question. The question is how do you resolve that.
You're saying it seems like we should be paskin.
Yes, because the Gemara paskin is like Reb Shimon.
Okay, so what's the answer?
What do you think?
I don't know.
The one I think is a little dachak answer. They say that halacha is like Reb Shimon according to the way one of the Moraim said it wrong. He learned the opposite shitas. They learned Reb Shimon was the one who apostle. So according to him, it doesn't say that. The Gemara disproved him. The Gemara says you said it wrong, and Ipcha Tanila, you said it wrong. Halacha is like Reb Shimon. Maybe it's like my father is saying, but the opposite. Meaning, like we say, Reb Shimon l'shmoch alav b'shas Atchak. And even though there might be uncertainty over here, and I might be worried that they're conniving and plotting against somebody. They're not plotting with the Chodesh. I mean,
they just have their own interests.
They have their own agenda, but still, because it's so crucial that even though we might not be able to find out the right day of the month, so we'd rather rely on them, even though they might have their own agenda, because maybe they don't have their own agenda. Probability is they don't have their own agenda. They're just two regular items. So therefore, we want to be koveh. We want to know that it's probably in all possibility. We go after Rove. Rove possibilities they don't have their own agenda. So we want to rely on them and have it be clear when the Moed Rosh. You don't have 2 days of Yom Kippur. You don't want to fast 2 days of Yom Kippur. Right? Maybe it's like you're saying, it's the opposite. Okay, another chiddush. Me and my father, we come with good chiddushim together. It's good stuff. I have to learn my father.
But this whole idea of Edus, I don't want to take too much time with this, but it's interesting because Rav Tendler was just nifter, and I had a personal story with Rav Tendler because I was at a Hashana of my sister-in-law's brother, and he asked me during the buffet before the wedding to be an aide under the chuppah. I assumed that he had checked with the Rav and so on and so forth, so I said, okay, sure. And then I got a little uneasy about it because I said, well, you know what? Am I related? It's just by marriage. So Rav Tendler was sitting there in the front row talking to Grandpa because they were good friends going back many years, 50 years. And I asked Rav Tendler the question. He says, not only you're not a kosher aid, you're a puzzle aid, 100% puzzle. So I said, what should I do? He says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And when they called up the Adim, the Ede Kedushin, Rav Tendler walked up. Of course, no one questioned it. And even the groom who had asked me didn't even realize that I wasn't there and Rav Tendler was. So Adis is an important thing. And he handled it deftly without anyone even knowing. So there was no embarrassment.
Those who don't know what Rav Tendler is referring to, or Moshe, I think his name, Moshe Tendler.
Moshe Tendler. Right?
He is a son-in-law of Moshe Feinstein.
Yeah.
And he also was a rabbi, one of the Rosh Yeshiva University. So, for those people who don't hold of Yeshiva University, Rav Moshe Feinstein, who you rely on for all your Shas and Shuvos, you read his Igros, you read his Shas and Shuvos. If you hold on Moshe Feinstein, and he chose Rav Tendler, the Rosh Yeshiva of YU, you got to go to YU. Send your kids to YU. It's
Not
the
only
place
that,
to be.
he cites Rav Tendler in almost all of his shuvas that deal with medical issues. He cites his son-in-law as a source.
So this is the truth.
Yeah.
He believed in YU. Moshe Feinstein was one of the patrons, founding fathers for YU. He believed in YU. If he had a son-in-law that was YU, the question is when did he go to YU? After he married into the family or before? Close the door for a second. All right, we gotta continue. We gotta move on. We have 15 minutes left. All right. So the Gemara says, Mishnah, Elohein Apsulin. These are the apostle Adam. We're talking about the Torah apostles and Eid Chama, someone who's a Gazlan from the Torah. These are Gazlanim Derabanan, they're apostle Derabanan for Eid. It's Elohein Apsulin for Eid Sachodesh also. Masachet B'Chuvia, someone's a gambler. The reason a gambler is apostle is because when you gamble, usually you think you're going to win, and when you lose, you don't really intend to give the other person the money, so he's kind of stealing from you. Malavi ribbis, people who lend with ribbis, right? He's giving you the money. You signed a deal that you're going to charge him interest, but according to the Torah, you're not allowed to take interest, so it's not really rightfully your money. Mafricha yonim, people who raise doves, and there actually are things people as bird racers. They grow, and they breed birds that fly very fast. So shvius, again, the reason they're being is gambling. With shvius, people who sell shvius, that violates an issur in the Torah. You're not allowed to sell payroll shvius. Avodim, and avodim, people are avodim knainim. Ze'akal kol edus she'ena isha ksheira la af hein enin ksheira la. If the isha is not kosher for that edus, certain edus and isha is ksheira la for. But if she's not ksheira for an edus, so these psulim edus derabanan are not kosher. Ha isha ksheira. The Gemara says the Gemara is medayik. If the woman is kosher la, af hein ksheira la. Also those enumerated in the Mishnah would be kosher. Amar Rav Ashi. Also, meres gazlan divrayim ksherin le'edus af isha. This would teach us that someone who's our Mishnah is a gazlan derabana, right? He's not from the Torah. He's not outright stealing. It's just unlawfully their money. So he'd be kosher le'edus isha to testify that a woman, her husband had died, in which case she could remarry, because we rely. There's many kulas you rely on edus isha. We rely even isha to testify, a woman to testify that a different woman's husband had passed away. Mishnah, he saw the new moon. He can't walk. He can ride on a donkey on Shabbos. We're talking about, like we learned before, Machal Shabbos. Even though you violated the Dorais of Mechamer of leading an animal, you can even carry him in a bag. If there's a suspicion of an ambush, they can take sticks or what are those things the police call like those sticks the police are called to hit people with?
Clubs.
Clubs.
They
can take the clubs with them in order to beat up the ambushers. If it's a far journey, they can take food with them, again, which is hotzah, which is allowed even in Isser D'Oraisa, is allowed on Shabbos. As long as they can reach them before the end of the day, a night, and most of the next day, the Machal Shabbos, and they go out to Yerushalayim to give Eidos. Their appointed time, it has to be their appointed time, even to Mechal Shabbos. We finished the first parak.
We'll come back.
Do your L'chaim. My father is Pasha L'chaim. Do a L'chaim for this first parak.
L'chaim.
No, how does it go?
Ay L'chaim. To Ian with Ben Sion Shir to Vegan L'chaim Taivim U'L'Shalom
L'Shalom. That's why I probably know it does it.
All
All
right.
right. Very good. All right, next parak, second parak. Man, makir also. If the basin is not makir, they wouldn't be makir. They wouldn't recognize who this person is that's giving edus hachodesh. Meshachin imo acher leido. Even another person's allowed to go with him. We'll see another person or two people allowed to go with him. In order to be made to basin, this person's a reliable person and is not someone who is trying to trick basin. And he could even machal Shabbos. What's the reason for this? Originally, based in Makabal Edus HaChodesh for any person who could prove they were Jewish. Once the Baitusim, they believed in the written Torah but not the oral Torah. They try to trick them. We'll see on Amud Beis how they try to trick them. Based in Eskino Shalim Makabal Elam and Makir, and they're Masakin, based in only Makabal people from they recognize as a reliable person, not someone who could trick them. My Acher, the Gemara says, what's Acher? Shachnimo Acher. We send another person with him. Chad seemingly means one person. So the Gemara on Chav Beis Amud Beis says, "V'chad mimehemin," is one person reliable to testify? There was a brisa which says that a person came, and Edav, plural, two witnesses came in order to testify, to attest that this person's a reliable witness. Amar of Papa, my acher, zug acher. Acher doesn't mean one person, it means another pair. Hachanam mistab. This makes sense. Dilo temahak. If you don't say this, so Mishnah says that they don't makir also. My oso. They don't recognize him. Ilema oso chad. It means one person. V'chami mehemet is one person reliable, is one person believed to give Edas HaChodesh. Mishpat ksiv. It says by Edas HaChodesh. It's called mishpat. It's like Dinei Mamas. You need to aid them. Elamai oso azug. Oso doesn't mean singular. It means a pair. Hachanami mayacher zug acher. It means they send another two witnesses to testify about him. One person is not reliable, he's not believed in order to attest that someone's a good witness. Now Rai went next to an aide who saw the new moon in order to give testimony to what's the word? To say that he's a good aide.
Character witness.
No, there's like a word to whatever, to testify that he's a good aid. B'Shabbos, b'Usha. Shabbos, Nusha. Amar Rabbi Amrish, the answer, Rabbi Norai was one person. Amar Rabbi Norai, Sahada, Hava, really is Rabbi Norai with another witness. Why didn't it say Rabbi Norai and another person? Mishum Chvodo, Rabbi Norai, because Rabbi Norai was a very great person. Say Rabbi Norai with another person is a degradation of Rabbi Norai's elevated status. The Gemara says, Ravashi Amar gives a different answer. Amar Rabbi Norai Sadach Hava B'Usha. He didn't go with another witness. There was a witness waiting for him already in Usha. Usha was the place where the Sanhedrin was exiled to after the Chorban Habayis. So that was where they were convening the Sanhedrin Agadol. Azar Rabbi Norai, that's the Rufi Bahadi. Rabbi Norai went in order to join together with that other eight. If that's true, so what's the Chiddush Rabbi Norai went? In that case, he didn't know if there was another witness over there. Kamashlan, he can Michal Shabbos because maybe there'll be another witness to testify with him, even a single person Michal Shabbos, because he might have another person aid to join together with him to be made on the new month. When Ula came to Bavel, he says in Eretz Yisrael, Mekadesh the Chodesh. Amar Rav Kahana, let me buy Ula the Gava Rabbahu the Mehemet. It's not just the Ula who was a great person, who was a big Talmud Chacham that's believed to say such a thing. Even a regular person, right? A regular Amaretz. Nami Mehemen, you would also be believed to say that based on Mekadesh the Chodesh, my time. Anything which will be eventually become known to everybody, people aren't going to lie about it. In Inshi. One person came from the end of the world, right? He came from Australia. He came from New Guinea. Papua New Guinea, right? You know what the capital of Papua New Guinea is? You know where Papua New Guinea is?
No.
I think it's Port Moresby. Remember about that one? Port Moresby? I don't know exactly where the end of the world is. The end of the world,
well, it's not flat, so it really doesn't end. It goes around in a circle.
So why does the Gemara say Sofa Olam? The truth is that airlines don't really fly over the Pacific. Did you know that there? There's no airlines for some reason
They do.
They fly over the Pacific. They fly from Hawaii to China. I believe there's no flights that fly over the Pacific.
Sure, they leave from California. If you want to go to Australia, you have to from New York. You have to fly from New York to California and then take a plane from California. Although Qantas now has introduced
California
nonstop
to where? To China?
California to Australia.
They
Goes
fly to
across the
Australia? They
Pacific.
do
Of
fly across
course,
the Pacific?
of course.
I read that they don't fly across the Pacific.
Yeah,
Have to look into this a little bit. You sure?
absolutely. That's the flight. The flight is it used to be that you had to fly from New York to California, which is about roughly a 6 hour flight, and then you had another 14-hour flight to Australia. But now Qantas, I think, flies direct from New York, so
Qantas is an
they
airline?
must have bigger storage tanks for their fuel. But it's pretty scary if you're flying over that Pacific.
Pacific
no
is
land.
Pacific. Oh, you fly over the Atlantic. Also, is a big ocean, but Pacific. I always thought they didn't fly over because there's something called the Polynesian Triangle. You know what the Polynesian Triangle?
Maybe they avoid that.
Polynesian Triangle is pretty much in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's a triangle, a huge triangle.
It's like the
It
Bermuda.
extends from I think New Zealand to Hawaii, and the bottom maybe Fiji. I don't know exactly. It's a triangle. It's like a Bermuda. It's a bigger Bermuda Triangle. If you didn't know about this, it's a bigger Bermuda Triangle, and planes get lost over there. I think Amelia Earhart, she lost she drowned somewhere in that Polynesian
I
Triangle.
didn't know that.
People don't know about the Polynesian Triangle, and that's why it says Mahodu ad Kush and Achashverosh. Hodu ad Kush. What is Hodu ad Kush? He ruled the entire world. Hodu ad Kush. Hodu is Turkey, Calcutta, India, not Turkey, India. So
Right.
it's called, and
Ethiopia.
Kush is not Ethiopia. It's Massachusetts. Because exactly from Massachusetts to India, Calcutta, India, is 140 degrees. Sorry, 160 degrees laterally.
Longitude, latitude.
Yeah, and there's 160 degrees latitude on the other side of the world if you exclude the Polynesian Triangle, because really it's 360 degrees latitude. But if you take out the 40 degrees of the Polynesian Triangle, you end up with, that's why Hoda Kush is exactly half point of the world, from Calcutta, India to Massachusetts, and that's Hodu Kush. That's Achashverosh.
That's where America started.
Polynesian, yeah.
Remember, 1 by night and 3 by sea, or whatever. One by
My
land.
dad's a
and 2 by
history major. You have to talk to him in history.
Okay.
All right. So the Gemara says, Rishona. So again, he's believed to say based on Mekadosh. He's not believed to testify with the new moon, but once Best Basin makes it a new month, so then he's believed. Rishona Mekadosh is a Chodesh Mikol Adam. And what did they do wrong that caused Basin to make the error? They wanted to trick the Chacham. They hired two people. The Dal males was 400 Zuz. They didn't realize that one of them was really a Baitusi, and one of them was someone who believed in the sages, Parosh. So their aid gave it aid us about the new moon when there wasn't a new moon, and he left. Shalanu Amarlo, the witness of Shalanu of the Prushim, Amrulo Emor Ketzad Ra'isa Lavana. The Basin asked him, how did you see? What did the moon look like? Amalam Ola Ha'isiv Maladum. I was going in Maladum, which is a place in Israel. Ra'isiv Shehu Ravos Ben Shnei Salam. I saw the new moon was situated between two rocks. Rosh Doma La'egel. The new moon, the head was similar to a calf. Ozna of Doma L'gdi. Its ears were similar to the ears of a kid goat. Karna of Doma L'svi. Its horns were like the horns of a deer. Its tail was tucked between its legs. I gazed at it, and I felt I was afraid. I fell backwards. Immediately, if you don't believe this, what I saw, if someone paid me 200 zuz in order to give this false testimony. Who told you to do this? I heard the Baitusim wanted to trick the Chamim. I'm going to go and offer and take and get paid the money, and I'll tell the Chamim that people are trying to trick them. You can keep the 200 zuz as a present. The person who hired you, the Baitus who hired you, he should be stretched out on the pillar. to get malchus. But also shai skimlish the mekablan elam in amakim. At that time, that's when the Mishnah says they were masakin only from people who they recognized would be able to give edus a chodesh. The Mishnah says rishayim masim masuos. Originally, they would light fires. Um, they would light a fire. We'll see how they did this in order to proclaim the new month, to let everybody know. Kusim was a different sect, also believed only in the wooden Torah, not the oral Torah. They try to trick them. Hiskina Shluch and Yotzin, they were masaking, and like we said in all the Mishnayos, that messengers actually went out to inform Eretz Yisrael on the Gola of the new moon. How did they light a fire? Torches. Mevian Klun Social Eres. They brought cedar, poles of cedar, Aruch, and very long. Vikanim, Ba'ati Shem and Ores, and reeds and Ati Shem as balls of wood and Ores, Shalpishan, and linen combings. Vikorech Mashicha, he tied these things at the top of the poles. Or he would go to the top, someone would go to the top of a mountain and he would light these poles on fire. He would swing in all directions and bring it up and down until he saw his friend, who also came Rosh Harashani. His friend on the second mountain saw him. Came Rosh Harashlishi, and so the third mountain, where would they start? Mahar Mishka from Mount Har Zeis in the first place. Sartava. Sartava Grufina. Sartava place was the next mountain. Grufina was the place for the third mountain. Grufina the Chavron. Chavron was the fourth mountain. Chavron the Beis Baltin. Beis Baltin was the fifth mountain. Beis Baltin was out of Misham Alamol Chamevim Alamoria Shaya Roa Kolagola from the fun of Knuras Ish. He would wave it around until all of Bavel saw the burning flame. My mashma the Messiah lishna of the Yaakov. How do you know Messiah is a lashon of fire, lighting something of fire? The Chsiv Vayisayim David on Ashav. Isaim David and his people. Mitachamina v'ogdin on David. Or Mesargim the Targum. Yonasan says Vayisaim is a lashon of burning. Tanarabban Emesim Masuos Ella Ala Chodesh Nir Bizmano. All right, we're gonna stop here. We're a little bit over time. Everyone have a good day. Hope you enjoyed. Tune in tomorrow for bagels and lox. Bye.